Hi, I'm Zena, and welcome to MadameZ and Friendz podcast. This is Dr. Stephen Hammock on my left.
Good evening. Thank you for having me today.
And before we get started, I did want to say thank you to my sponsor, Purple Lava Coffee. Thank you so much. Okay, so how would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Well, like I said, I appreciate you for having me today. I'm a career-long educator, have served in a number of roles from general education teacher when I first started, then moved over into special education, writing IEPs and trying to make sure students had access to their accommodations. Coached all along the way, baseball, softball, football, basketball. I also served as an assistant athletic director before moving into administration as an assistant principal at a middle school. Then served as a principal at a K-8 institution, later moving over to be a school improvement specialist for a school district before moving back to the building. I'm currently serving as a principal at a fairly large high school with about 2,500 students here in Georgia.
Okay. What's your biggest takeaway in terms of education where it is right now?
Well, I think, as with most things, it shifts, right? There's cycles, there's barriers and things that we have to overcome. Of course, 2020 and the pandemic completely shifted education, right? In terms of how we access our students, the way that they access materials. There was a significant interruption to their learning that year, which is continuing to have, reverberations even in 2025. There have been shifts in technology, right? The resources that we have available. 20 years ago, kids had lockers and book bags, and now students have Chromebooks and they access class materials and things online. So education certainly has shifted, as well as attention spans, right? Devices have taken over what is a student's reality, right? A kid's reality. If you think about it, really, from a student gets up often, by a cell phone, right? They set an alarm, they get up, they're checking it, they're going about their day, they get to school, and they most often access those things during transition. Of course, have new laws in Georgia that cover K-8. That forbid cell phones in buildings, but some districts have even expanded that to the high school level. But the second they get an opportunity, though, right, whether it be the end of the day or throughout the day, they're on that phone again, and they're on it till they go to bed, often falling asleep on the phone, right? It's playing and doing things while they're asleep. And so, I say that to say that engagement has changed, right? The way that lessons are crafted and the opportunities that we have as practitioners to reach students have certainly changed and shifted. So, I would say those couple of things, right? I think, middle school teachers and high school teachers are finding that their kids have less and less of a foundation in terms of skills, reading and math, as well as the ways in which we try to hook and engage kids in our classes, and the way that students are able to access the curriculum and submit their assignments certainly has changed, as dictated by advances in technology.
Right. Outside of education, do you have any particular projects that you're working on?
Sure. One of the things I left out earlier is, I spent a career in education, and it also includes doing some contract work and leading diagnostic reviews in schools. I do sit on a board of a nonprofit, All the Way and Then Some, which was founded by a guy named Arthur Hawkins. Definitely a faith-based organization that tries to provide resources and access for young black men, often who need a strong male figure in their life. Most recently, we were able to provide I think it was over 200 gifts for elementary school students. We also try to engage kids through mentorship, particularly those that are athletes, just providing a positive male figure who, they can engage with, right? And so those types of things and that sort of work transcends a lot of different areas, right? Those same kids are in classrooms. Those same kids will, enter society at some point, right? And will be, most of them, fathers, hopefully productive members of society that are able to go to work and earn a wage that supports hopefully the quality of life that they want to live, right? I know you and I share travel interests, right?
Indeed.
I recently participated in the summer of 24, a Fulbright seminar going to Thailand. When I was in undergrad, I participated in education abroad in England. So certainly travel, whether it be outside the United States or inside the United States, is of interest to me. And, particularly trying to extend some of those opportunities to groups who, otherwise might not think that was within their reach, right? When I was a softball coach, we did some of that. We hosted a number of spring break tournaments at Gulf Shores High School at the beach. We did it for baseball, softball, basketball. And so, to be able to see some of those kids for the first time, even going to the beach, right? And for sport to be an avenue for that was certainly something that was fulfilling.
What made you get into education of all things? I don't know. I know for myself, that was not on my number one list of things to do coming up as a kid. As a matter of fact, academically, I stunk. And I didn't get into it until I became much, much older, and even more so after I became a parent. But what about you? How did you get into education?
So, it really wasn't of all things. One of the things that drives me, and I try to share this story in buildings that I'm a part of, is strong capacity. Very skilled members in schools matter. And so what I mean by that is, I went down the road of education because that's what I knew. The folks that were most influential to me outside of my family and my pastor were teachers or coaches or both, right? You spend all this time doing what when you're growing up? Sitting in front of a teacher. I was a baseball player. My first love was sport. And so, that had a significant positive impact on me. And I wanted to, one is what was comfortable. It's what I knew. I mean, if you will, you could think of it, that's what I spent my internship doing, right? Is watching teachers teach. And so, it got time to make a decision. That was one of the factors for that. The other factor for that was, I remember when I filled my FAFSA out for the first time, my mother had made something like $15,000 a whole year. And so, naive me thought, well, teachers start out around 40. That's about 3 times as much what, my mother made. That'll be good money, right? And so, I felt like it was something that was viable that I could do. And that, I was familiar and it was comfortable. And of course, that why has grown, right? It started out just being something that I knew, and then it's grown into, and through the course of doing this work and having opportunities to engage with students, whether it be I'm their teacher or I'm their coach or, their administrator, really has developed a desire in me to want to have a positive impact on as many people as I can, right? And so you look for opportunities to do that. A teacher has, maybe 120, 150 students, in her classroom or in his classroom that he can, or she can interact with, right? And so as a building level administrator, I have, as I mentioned earlier, 2,500 kids that either directly or indirectly I can have a positive impact on. And then you consider the teachers in the building and the staff in the building as an administrator, it shifts, right, from just being students to being students and adults. Trying to create an environment that's most conducive for them to be able to grow, right? So that's the why.
Okay. So somewhere down the road, I remember you telling me about writing a book.
Right.
So where are we with it?
So I'm glad you brought that up. The book and the content of the book is school safety. I collaborated with a former school resource officer that I worked with, in which we looked at a number of scenarios that involve school safety, because that's really how we get better as practitioners is reflection. And so we have a manuscript that we finished, and we
Yes.
haven't put the boat in the water, though. It's something we've gone back and looked at, because what we realized is that he's still practicing. I, of course, am still practicing. So we started with around about 7 initial scenarios and incidents that we could study and give commentary on, and talk about the different nuances, what went well, what we could have done differently. But that's continued to grow, right? And so we want to make sure that we really and truly capture a varied collection of experiences that aren't just one certain topic or one certain avenue. That is one of the things that is very present on the mind of an assistant principal and a principal and any administrator. Really, is safety. There's any number of things that occur throughout the day or that could occur, all of which you have to be prepared for. And some of those things you can hope to prevent harm, and in some of those situations, it's mitigating those and the number of people who are impacted and hurt, right? And so that also is a topic that's very important, right? I mean, that's what we have to try to foster first and foremost before anything, is a safe environment, right? Everybody's got to make it back home, hopefully better than the way they arrived in the first place.
Indeed, indeed. We're going to take a quick little break. I want to do a little trivia question. You game?
Let's go.
So it's going to be true or false. George Washington, false teeth. True or false?
Ooh, I'm going to go with true.
Believe it or not. Let me tell you the true answer.
I do.
It's actually false.
Okay.
It's actually false. But thank you. I appreciate you trying. Want to go another one?
Of course. I got to get one right.
Okay, my cheat sheet. Okay, hang tight, hang tight. True or false? Vikings were dirty and never bathe.
I will go with false.
Hey, yes.
There we go.
You got it.
There
Yes,
we
yes,
go.
yes. Okay, one more?
One more.
All right. There were female samurai. True or false?
False.
Believe it or not, it's true. Yeah, I know, right? Like, what? Yeah. All right, so, quick question. Outside of education, where do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now? What else do you want to do?
Well, I think the whole multiple sources of income thing has been interesting. You know what I'm saying? I think it's something everybody wants to. Well, I won't say everybody. The draw for me is to try and apply some of the systems and structures from one industry, right, from education to something else. And so I certainly would like to continue the nonprofit work and serve on maybe multiple boards, but then even beyond that, to have an opportunity to employ people, right? I mean, I think you can bring positive value by giving people a reason to get up and work, particularly in an industry that's going to, benefit somebody else. So I absolutely would love to, run a business one day.
I agree wholeheartedly. The whole idea of multiple streams of income seems to be very, very, very prevalent in our society today. I have one other question I wanted to ask. So, you have an organization, Hammock.
Hammock Education. Mm-hmm. Right.
What was the impetus for setting that particular organization up?
Mm-hmm. So Hammock Education was really birthed out of wanting to help some other areas in terms of their professional development and their professional learning, right? It's the type of stuff, for example, when you go to any fast food restaurant, you have a negative experience, or when you go to a hotel and they've overbooked and they call and tell you, we've got to cancel your reservation. It was out of a desire to, I've talked about this before in some other settings. We have like the start of our careers and the end of our careers, and the shortest distance is a straight line, right? And so you probably heard me talk about, how thick is that straight line going to be? And so I think engaging in these other areas help me to, make my line a little thicker, right, to bring some value in some other ways. And so Hammock Education is that. The purpose of the organization is to provide professional learning and professional development. Of course, we do that. I have done some contract work with schools, but ultimately the goal for that organization is to stratify out and help in the private sector.
So if someone needed to reach you, how would they contact you via social media?
So I have I think my Twitter is, or my X is at Hammock EDU. And so I can be reached that way. Email is hammockeducationllc@gmail.com. So those are the two primary ways I can be reached.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's go all the way back. Childhood. If somebody asks you, what was your favorite memory? What comes to mind?
Oh, sport. No doubt, it's sport. I started playing baseball. I was 7 years old. And, what started out as something to do, something fun, playing a game, turned into life skills, right? Played in high school all 4 years. And so you certainly learn how to handle adversity. You learn how to handle success. You learn how to be a good teammate, how to develop soft skills that, ultimately have gone beyond just the field of play, right? I mean, every bit of that stuff we deal with in everyday life. We deal with it in our occupation and job. We deal with it in our personal lives as well, right? My career has taken me from Georgia to Alabama and back again, and certain elements of that was being a good teammate, right? And being a good spouse. And so certainly sport, competition. You apply for a job, you find out real quick that you can't earn a job. Somebody has to choose you. Now you can get the education, you can have all the experiences, but ultimately it comes down to somebody has to choose you. And so I just think competition and all those other soft skills have really served me well. It still gives me joy. I can watch a game, I can go to a practice, all of those things, whether you're competing or being a spectator, is very, very giving and entertaining to me.
Is that something you might be interested? So say, for example, somebody sees this video, somebody in the sports world. Do you think maybe coaching might be something that you would be interested in?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I've done lessons over the years for kids. These days it's a time thing, right? How do you, best handle, running an organization of, as I mentioned before, 2,500 students, over 150 faculty and staff, and the after-school engagements and things of that nature. But absolutely, when I can do it, I love to do it. At this point with, 5 kids, it really turns into, being out in the backyard, right? Absolutely.
Oh, man. Is there anything else you think you might want to stretch? Because I've always known you as being someone who learning is your key thing in life. Is there anything else that you think you might want to stretch and learn?
Oh, well, every day's learning, and if I can, I think that's what really has made you to be, such an impactful educator is, we had an opportunity to work together. And, I saw you cry when kids didn't do well because you felt like you didn't do a good enough job preparing them.
Yeah.
I've seen you cry when they did score well, because you were so happy and excited for them and their success. And so I really think, being a part of that process is pretty special in and of itself. And I think mentorship of teachers, that's why it works, is openness. And so, the question you asked me was about continued learning, and that's why, I have done so many different things so quickly, right? You probably heard me say before, one of my favorite Psalms talks about, I'll run the path that ye hath made, right? Not walk, not jog, but run. And so, we were talking before we started about, advice for parents and what's the one thing I would say to parents. And I think the one thing I would urge all parents to do is to be interested and intentional about spending time with your students. Because if you will spend time with your kids, this other stuff will come out. That means you will prioritize getting them to school on time. and every day. And if you can't do that, let the school system do it for you and put them on the bus.
Yeah.
Because, parents who are engaged and interested in their kids and being intentional, more so being intentional about spending time with their students, you'll know what's going on at school as well, academic and non-academic.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about one failure that you remember, and what did you learn from it?
Well, I think it was a big mistake. When I first got into administration, I thought I was supposed to know a lot. I was supposed to know everything. And it's hard to be decisive and provide the level of clarity that you need to be when you're leading, when you're trying to be something that you're not. And so I think that certainly was a failure when I first started, because, we all want to get comfortable. And that I've actually talked about this very thing with new administrators that I've worked with in the past. Is a lot of times you leave, you got the new job because you were doing well in your old job, right? And so then all of a sudden you go from being on top and being very well versed in what you're doing to now you have a new role and you got to start all over. You got to start over at the beginning. So I think that certainly was a failure. I think it's been a failure throughout my career when I had one idea of what success was and somebody else had a different idea. And you learn that real quickly when, you're striving to do something and you have this idea about what success is, but you hadn't put the time in to be collaborative enough with the effort to understand what collectively the idea of success is, right? Certainly your bosses sometimes will have a different idea of success than you do. So it's important to ask those questions on the front end. It's important to have a very good understanding of the vision when you start any initiative, right? So that you can have that clarity of success.
Okay. I think we have time for 2 more trivia questions. Let's live. Come on, live a little, live a little. Okay, so, true or false? Roman gladiators didn't always fight to the death.
You said always, so I'm going to say that's false.
This is true.
I think I meant true.
Okay.
I talk too much.
Yeah,
Anytime
no,
it says always, it's
looking out for those key words.
Yeah, it's like you said didn't in there and it just...
That's okay. How about another one? Ketchup was once sold as medicine.
What? I thought these were history questions. Ketchup.
It is part of history. History of food. Things that we've done in the past.
Medicine. True. It sounds absurd.
And actually, it's true. Good job.
Absurd. What was it a medicine for?
I have no idea, but that's something else I'm gonna look up. I'm like, what? Really? This last one. Come on.
I always said 2.
Come on, one more. Live a little, live a little. Wow, one more. I think this is exciting. People used to think...
Get on this end of the gun.
Okay. People used to think chewing gum could stay in your stomach for 7 years. True or false?
That's true.
False. Well, listen, anyway.
People still think the Earth's flat, so, I mean, come on.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. All right. But listen, I wanted to say thank you so much. This was something we had talked about for a long time, and it finally came to fruition. So I really look forward to you coming again and doing this.
I'd be glad to.
Yes. And then perhaps bringing your other half who brings another wealth of expertise, which would be cool too.
Sure. We'll see. We'll see what we can work out. A lot of schedules at play.
Yeah, I know.
Glad to be a friend, though.
Yeah. Last but not least, I wanted to say thank you so much. So much. Purple Lava, thank you for sponsoring my podcast. So this is my first foray into this realm of podcasting, and I look forward to you, the viewers. Keep coming back. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you, and bye.